Okay. Well, good afternoon, everyone. I hope you've enjoyed your lunch break, and welcome back to the afternoon session of two more panels at Excellence by Vendôme, brought to you live and direct from the very lovely Hôtel de Maurois in Paris. If you're just joining us, my name is Martin Green. I'm the editor of Glion's online business and lifestyle magazine, The Insider, and I'm your host and moderator for all these sessions. So without further ado, let me introduce the next one. Now, luxury thrives on heritage. Brands are constantly reminding us of their storied histories because they know that the consumer uses those stories to build their passion for the brands. But while luxury cherishes its past, the industry must also look to the future, adapting to demographic changes, new sales channels, while also facing potentially existential challenges in the area of sustainability. So the question is, where next for luxury? Now, joining me to give their views are three women who come at the topic from contrasting perspectives. Véronique Beaumond is the General Manager and COO of ESMOD, the world's oldest fashion school, which has been transmitting expertise for some 180 years. And if you look over there, you can see one of the incredible creations that has come out of the ESMOD organizations over on the side there. Now, Véronique brings to the role a huge amount of commercial knowledge and insights that she's gained through 30 years in the haute couture business, working alongside designers such as Christian Lacroix and Marcel Moranjou. Fabienne Lupo, my second guest, served for 15 years as the chief executive of La Fondation de la Haute Horlogerie, or FHH, the organization which spreads the culture of Swiss watchmaking around the world. More recently, she founded ReLuxury, the world's first major event solely dedicated to re-commerce and the circular economy for luxury goods. And she also lends her expertise to academia as a member of the Academic Council at HEAD Geneva, and she's also on the governing board of Glion. Marie-Anne Wachtmeister is the co-founder and creative director of COURBET, the groundbreaking brand that makes use of lab-grown diamonds and recycled precious metals to produce exquisite, ethical, and sustainable jewelry. Now, for this venture, Marie-Anne joined forces with Manuel Malem, who some of you will remember from last year's Excellence by Vendôme panels. Now, I'm fascinated by the COURBET story, so I'm really looking forward to Marie-Anne's take on it. So this is going to be a great hour of conversation. So please join me in welcoming Véronique Beaumond, Fabienne Lupo, and Marie-Anne Wachtmeister. So thank you all very much for joining us this afternoon. Now, Marie-Anne, if I can start with you. Luxury has always been about selling the dream, an escape from reality, if you will, as part of the sort of appeal of luxury. But it's fair to say potentially that there's now a need to sell a guilt-free dream as part of that. Firstly, do you agree with that statement? And if you do, how does that tally with the sort of traditional virtues of luxury?
I partially agree. Because I think selling a guilt-free dream, you have the word guilt in there, and I don't think that there was any guilt anywhere, not even, traditionally it's based on ignorance, on selling half of the story. So I think you're selling a dream by telling half of the story. That's kind of the traditional take on it. With time today, you can't really keep, you can't stay ignorant today. Even if you don't want to, you end up getting the messages through social media, through friends. And so there you have the guilt. And so today I think that to be guilt-free, to have like guilt-free luxury, you either have to be really ignorant or you have to consume sustainable alternatives. For us, I think the contrast and the dilemma comes when you need to establish kind of awareness of the issue in order to be able to present a sustainable solution as relevant. And so you kind of need to educate the market about the issues. And when you do that, you're not very luxurious in your message because you're kind of in the negative. And that has always been a balance. How negative can you be? When we first launched COURBET, we said, we're not going to talk about the issue, we're only going to talk about the solution. But that was impossible, because as soon as you say, we have something that is not going to ruin biodiversity, you get the question, what does the other alternative ruin the biodiversity? And there you are, you have to tell the full story. And so I think with today's generation, they are more ready to hear the other side of the story, the dark side that they are trying to kind of avoid. And it hasn't affected really. I think it's simply a new way of seeing luxury. And I think, it's luxury is supposed to be, all the way through from A to Z, not just from A to M.
Yeah, okay. Fabienne, obviously with your involvement in initiatives like ReLuxury, I suspect I know where you come from on that equation, but please do tell us what's your take on that idea of the guilt-free dream.
Yes, I think I agree that today luxury has always been a kind of very desirable universe, I would say, with products. So and today it's not only luxury, which is like a guilty-ridden industry. It's all about consumption, and it's why it's what the Swedish guys call cop scam. It's a kind of shame to buy. Like the flight scam we had during the pandemic, it was a shame. It was a shame to take a flight, to fly, and now we have this kind of trend. The cop scam. It's all about the shame of buying, and it's why I think the circular economy, the repurpose, the resale, the repair. It could be also a way, a path to go further and to surpass, let's say, this guilty-ridden problem we have, the consumption of luxury goods.
Yeah. And Véronique, you've been obviously involved in the world of fashion, both from from a commercial and obviously now from an academic point of view. What's your take on this idea of the guilt-free dream?
Could you imagine from an academic point of view, from a school of fashion? What is our objective? It's like to train people to create and concept new products, new garments. So there is a paradox, but that's true, that with the digital and the social influence, and also because the luxury brands and the luxury groups, they do like, even today, they do like 6 collections a year. So we have to make the difference between consumption and what is really the definition of luxury, which has been always desirable, attractive, but at the same time, the new generation, they're looking for the foundation of that, the artwork, the craft, the authenticity, the values, the sense. So I think they understand very well this paradox, because they are paradoxal themselves, the new generation. I think, of course, we talk about this industry like the less sustainable industry, but it's not true at the end, because you see all those artwork companies still existing, at the same time from the tradition to the innovation. So
yeah, interesting. And if I can stay with you, Véronique, because obviously from your position at ESMOD, you are educating, you are training the fashion leaders of the future, and obviously the topic of our conversation is cherishing the past, but also looking to the future. In terms of your students, in terms of those fashion students, where are their heads at the moment, if you to coin the phrase, and are they looking to the past for inspiration, or is it much more future focused now? Tell us a little bit about that.
First of all, when they decide to enter in ESMOD, it's because of the past of ESMOD, because we have our founder was an inventor, and at the same time he was creating, he was like a couturier of Impress Eugénie, but at the same time the first one to create the methodologies for pattern makings for it was very inclusive for all the bodies. So they're looking for this storytelling first, and the parents and the applicants, when they come to our open doors, we show a lot of our archives, and we have study pieces, 3,000 study pieces from Heritage, not from our alumni, but also from the different generation of fashion. And when you look at this item, for example, it was made for Stéphane Roland-Chaud for the first part. He was very generous to welcome our students. And you see, this is what we call new couture. Okay. And that's true that at the moment, we have two classes of couture, haute couture. That means that the new generation, again, is very, very interested in the haute couture, the craft, the métier d'art, and also the traditional haute couture. They talk a lot about, they can see different documentaries about Saint Laurent himself, and not only talking about the new artistic directors at the moment, but it has to be contemporary and innovative at the same time, because we were the first French fashion school to open the 3D digital classes from the second year, but we mixed the 2D pattern making with the 3D, with the digital, the new digital tools. So in fact, they want the mix and match. They like hybridation. So we do haute couture, but we do also sportswear, mixed with the haute couture crafts. They want to have the mixity. For them, it's very modern and contemporary.
So they're trying to get that full balance. Exactly, they're trying to get across the piece.
Definitely.
Yeah, analog and digital, if you like.
Exactly. Yes.
Interesting. Marianne, as I mentioned in my introduction, we had the pleasure of Manuel's company on this panel last year, and he took us through what he called his awakening to this whole notion of lab-grown diamonds, which was and how that could become the basis for a premium jewelry brand, which I think was quite an interesting take. But I'm interested in the story of how you came to this venture. You are, after all, partners in this venture. And what attracted you to the idea of doing this?
Well, Manuel and myself, we met, I think it was 2014. And I was selling to him a patent. Actually, not really the patent, but the right to explore the patent. So it was a license. It was a patent for an interchangeable ring that I had developed a whole collection, and that's how we met. So we started to work a little bit on how to adapt that collection. And some years later, he left that brand, and he called me and asked if I wanted to start a sustainable brand with him. And I was in the midst of actually thinking about what was I going to do. So I had just been, certified a yoga teacher, and I was thinking about opening a yoga studio. And I was thinking about yoga studio or, brand in Paris. And it was like, I think brand in Paris, and especially because it's like a sustainable brand in Paris. Every word was kind of great. And at that time I lived in Sweden because I'm Swedish. And I had already since the 90s, ecology had been like something that I had been feeling bad and guilty about since the 90s, but never finding a way how to deal with, because very few ecological sustainable options. So basically it was down to you sacrificing your way of living. And so for me, it was like amazing to be able to contribute to positive change. And also what I like specifically, even more was the idea of taking lab-grown diamonds and placing them in the high end and contributing to disruption, because that made it both meaningful and exciting.
Excellent, thank you. And Fabienne, in a way, you embody our theme of cherishing our past through the work that you've done to establish the ReLuxury event, which, as I mentioned in my introduction, is all about re-commerce. It's about the circular economy, but from a luxury perspective. I'd like you just to tell us a little bit more about that, because I know it's a project very dear to your heart. Tell us a little bit more about that project and how it came about, and sort of, if you like, the kind of the passion that you put into it.
So yes, I have spent my entire career in the luxury industry, especially promoting the culture and know-how about fine watchmaking and craftsmanship, because I was also at the initiative of the brand new foundation called Michelangelo Foundation for Creativity and Craftsmanship, and we did this amazing event in Venice called Homo Faber, which is all about the promotion and preservation of craftsmanship in all the sectors. And so patrimony, heritage, history, it's all about my my career. It's and I think it's a prerequis to start also to pursue the journey of luxury goods, and it's why I said it's too much talent, too much expertise to be wasted and to be throw out. And we just need to leverage on that. We just need to invest on that. And it's why, for me, it was important for luxury brands to set an example. And if there is an industry that should pave the way to sustainability, to durability, it's all about luxury, because it's quality, it's repairability, it's transmission, so it's really the intrinsic value of this, and it's why I decided really to create this new event called ReLuxury, and it's all about circular economy initiative in this industry. So it's not, and what I have in mind at that time is really to readdress and repurpose the issue of luxury. It's not only resale, it's not only buyback, but it's also about repairing, recycling, upcycling. You know that there are a lot of initiatives now, like Petit H from Hermès, for instance, using leather spare parts to bring new collection to life. There are so many initiatives, but it's true that the big maisons, the big luxury maisons are very shy still on this subject, because I don't know why, because the fear of maybe losing their clients, the fear about pricing the let's say the second-hand items. We cannot say second-hand in luxury. Huh? We have to say pre-owned or pre-loved.
Yep.
But second-hand, it's forbidden. No way.
Yeah. And what was the you're a well-known figure in the luxury world, so you weren't coming at it from a position of anonymity. But what was the reaction from the industry when you started to talk about these initiatives and projects like that? Was there a genuinely supportive? Were people
They said,
against
"Are you
it?
sure?"
Okay.
But I say, "Oh, that's a fantastic idea." No. More seriously, everybody was really curious about this initiative, because they all know that they will have to go. They all know that. It's like digital, 15, 20 years ago, all these big maisons like Cartier, like so on and so on, said, but we will never sell on internet. It's impossible. And now it's their biggest boutique, their biggest store. They do a huge business. So I think circularity is no more an option, for sure. So it will come, for sure. It will take time. But we will do it. They will have to go anyway, because the client is asking for. And when the client wants, the client can.
Yeah, well, the client gets what he wants. So Véronique, from an haute couture perspective, can that be the case? Can that work for the haute couture business as well, to get more involved in this kind of idea?
In fact, haute couture is not a business, in fact, because I know very well that, because, I remember I worked for Christian Lacroix, and unfortunately the company couldn't survive with only haute couture. That's haute couture, takes its roots from really something very sustainable and very durable, because it's really with the artisan and the handmade, only one piece. So we don't talk about the volume of consumption. So haute couture is not really. Haute couture is very sustainable, and that's why the new generation are very attracted by that. I think this is really during our jury when they introduce their collection. And when we ask them about their marketing strategy, they say, we don't want to sell a lot. We want exclusive collection. We want capsule collections. And you see that many luxury brands, they launch capsule and exclusive collection. And they relaunch also exclusive products coming from their vintage pieces. When you look also at the Oscar 2 days ago, there was like vintage pieces of Schiaparelli or other brands again on the celebrities. So I think that really haute couture. After talking about the other side of luxuries, which is more perfumes or cosmetics or accessories, it's very difficult to talk about sustainability because there are so many collections launched per year again. That's important to say that even digital fashion, I've read that, could be more sustainable than physical fashion. Yes, yeah. Not only NFT, but when you realize when you are going to save some fabrics, you are going to save some pattern makings, and you are not going to waste too many fabrics if you can create with the digital tools, and also because you can create new avatars or new from your body or to personalize also because you know that in haute couture or in luxury you take the body size 36, but with digital fashion you can do you can personalize any kind of body and it's more inclusive.
Yeah.
Okay, we are not going to talk about carbon print, but let's say that the scientists, the engineer are going to work on that, on the carbon print. But that's true that digital fashion could open more possibilities than physical fashion.
Yeah. And Marianne, sort of a couple of questions actually. Firstly, it's obviously not just about lab-grown diamonds. As I mentioned in my intro, there is also a thing about recycled precious metals. So there's that side of which I'd like you just to sort of to talk a little bit about that part of it. But also, when you've done that, maybe sort of tell us a little bit about the kind of industry reaction about you know, your peers in that industry, about when you said you were going to set this new brand up and this is what it was going to do. Just give us a sort of feeling about kind of what the reaction was to that from the people you know. But start off with the recycling element first, because we'll keep on that theme.
Yeah. So we the diamonds, the lab-grown diamonds, they are set in recycled gold, and that was a bit tricky, you know, to decide on what gold, because once gold is melted, it's very, how do you say, anonymous. It's very difficult to know anything about the gold. It's an element, and so traceability is not obvious. For us, it was important to know that this gold has already been used for sure, so we actually went for gold from urban mines. And an urban mine is a place where you recycle gold from industrial and technological waste. So because you have gold a little bit everywhere because of its properties. So typically you have a little bit of gold in your smartphone, in the computer, in catalyzers, in a lot of things. And so we work with Agossi, who belong to Umicore, and Umicore used to own gold mines. And they completely changed their whole operations to go into recycling. And so that's our partner for the gold. And then, of course, anything that we can take, first we try to do biodegradable, recycled or biodegradable. And in the very last, recyclable is like the last option, because recyclable could be plastic or anything, which is kind of not so good. It sounds good when you say recyclable, but it's not necessarily very good. So that's a little bit about the concept.
Yeah, okay. And in terms of that reaction to
well, it was interesting because when we launched, we immediately, in the first round of raising capital, we had a big brand join us, and they said, and this is nearly 6 years ago, they said, we know we'll probably eventually need to get there. And we even had a person who said, can't wait for things to move faster. but they know they couldn't move faster. And I think, so of course their reaction was super positive. But and the brands were generally quite curious because they all know, that this is like a avalanche coming, and these are the first little, snowballs that they're seeing, and they know that the rest is going to come soon. And so they're kind of waiting. So they were more curious, and they would kind of trot over the Place Vendôme and come and visit to see what's going on. The ones that were more, fierce and negative were, I think, the traditional joailliers, jewelry makers. And they, all the organization around this, they were very much backing up the traditional mined diamonds, and it was, for us coming in there, it was really like swearing in the church. It's something that we were betraying, and Manuel, who has been for 30 years in the industry. And so we had quite a lot of issues, actually, with deliberate attempts to hamper us going forward. But which made it just all the more fun, because we were feeling like, we're having an impact, because otherwise, who cares?
Yeah. What would you say was the kind of the number one challenge of getting a business like this off the ground?
Well, it was. You have a lot of classic business challenges, suppliers, etc. But I think for us was to open up the market, to educate the market. And we both had to educate the market on understanding that a lab-grown diamond is a real diamond made out of carbon atoms. You can't see the difference. You really had to go to like a gemological institute and going through like 6-7 tests to establish that this is for sure a lab-grown diamond. You can kind of establish that it's a 98% chance, but there's still a 2% chance that it's not. So it's really like a real diamond. It's like you've taken a piece of glass. I'd say ice, from the surface of a lake, and you do that every day. And one day you understand you can do the same process, but in your freezer. And then people go like, "Oh, but that's synthetic ice, then." No, it's literally the same stuff. So we had to educate about that, and then we had to educate about, but why do we want to do that? What is the issue? This is just a tiny little stone, it can't be having that much of an impact. So that is another, and that was when we turned into the negative, where we didn't want to go, which is like, okay, a diamond mine, the whole is like the first arrondissement of Paris. The rest of the area is 75% of Paris. And after 20 years, this closes down, and you have the equivalent of half a bathtub of diamonds. So is it worth doing all this when you can now produce them? So that was a bit the message.
Yeah, absolutely. And now Fabienne, sorry, please.
I think I just want to react. I think it's a huge challenge they are facing, really. Because they are destroying all the storytelling of all the jewelries at the Place Vendôme for years. For not only Place Vendôme, Tiffany is saying a diamond is eternal. Comment on dit?
Diamond is forever.
Forever. Diamond is forever, and it's and exactly. And you say, but my diamond is also forever, but I have made it in the machine, and it's a physical property, and it's proven that it's exactly the same. But for them, it's a huge challenge to convince
our diamond is forever for the planet.
Exactly. So I'm very impressed by what they are doing, and I'm a great supporter. It's difficult for me to tell that to the jewelers, I would say, but I think they are doing an amazing job, and I fully support them. And but it's true, the route will be long for sure.
Yeah, interesting. Now, Fabienne, I will stay with you if I may, and I'm going to rewind from the world of ReLuxury to your previous position with the FHH and the world of Swiss watchmaking, and I want you to give me, from that perspective, a little bit of insight into how that industry is adapting to these new paradigms, to these changes that we've already been talking about. Give us the watchmaker's view.
Yes, I think today the watchmaker's view, it's mainly, let's say, they are focusing on their carbon footprint. like more or less all the industry, they are really concerned of that because, of course, the deadline of 2030 is approaching fastly, and you know that all they are trying to reach the SDGs, the Sustainable Goals Development, the UN Sustainable Development Goals from the UN. They try to achieve them, and it's really, of course, difficult because it's a huge work. You know, it's from carbon footprint to gender equality to inclusiveness, human rights. So it's just huge, and it's difficult for them to work on all these aspects of their business. But they are also trying, let's say, just to focus on the way they are producing. So sourcing the good materials, thinking about maybe recycled materials, raw materials, and they are mainly concerned by their carbon footprint, not necessarily yet by the opportunity to change their mind and to propose new collections, not only new collections, but also making some revival, some vintage collection, and develop this circular business, which is completely new. And it's why the brand are a little bit shy. I was saying that at the beginning, and this business has been taken over by other. You know, that nature ate what is what is empty, and so the digital platforms, retailers have taken the floor, and they are doing their business for the brands. So now, when you want to buy a vintage or collection watch, it's difficult to go to a brand and say, okay, I don't want my Cartier watch anymore. Can you buy it back, and then I will buy a new one? Cartier said, no, I'm sorry, we cannot do that. But please go to Chrono 24 or Watchbox or Watchfinder or whatever. There are plenty now of platforms and dealers also. Classic retailers like Bucherer, like Watches of Switzerland, like Odinky, it's a digital platform also. They are selling collection watches and vintage watches. But the problem is, when you come to that, it's about traceability and authentication. Because when you buy on internet, you are never 100% sure about the authenticity of the piece.
And I think that's why obviously Watchfinder Richemont became part of the Richemont family.
Exactly.
They're starting to have certification partnerships. I think the online, the sort of the chosen ones among the online retailers are starting to get into that certified pre-owned, aren't they?
It's a big challenge to certify a piece, because if you want to certify a piece, you have to open it, you have to dismantle it, and then and sometimes even the best watch masters are not even capable to say if it's a real piece or not, because you have let's say fake real pieces, you know. In auction, for instance, you have some spare parts. They are all
remanufactured,
real,
they call them, don't they?
They are Frankenstein watches, and it's not real ones. But it's really, for sometimes it's really difficult to see. So you really never know, since you are not addressing to the brand or to a official retailer of a brand. And sometimes it's not completely, it's not 100% secure.
Okay. Now, Véronique, if I can turn back to you again, because obviously if we're talking cherishing our past, there are really few institutions that can quote as long a past as ESMOD. It's 180 years, and indeed, you know, your foundation date is part of your logo, so it's something you're obviously very proud of. In terms of student recruitment, in terms of your position in what you do, how important is that history to the appeal of the institution? But also, how do you then balance that with the very changing needs of Gen Zs, Gen Alphas, who perhaps less interested, let's say, in history? How do you balance to make the most of it, but to not have it dominate, you know, what you're about?
First of all, that's true that already said that Mr. Lavigne, who created ESMOD in 1841, was already someone very contemporary, let's say, because he invented the mannequin bust and a machine to do it. So it was like half engineer, half couturier, a lot of publishing in fashion magazines. And at the same time, we have a lot of storytelling about Alexis and the family after, and also the other directors, until the 60s, where finally it was called ESMOD, because before it was called Lavigne. And in the 60s, that was the time of the ready-to-wear. Mm-hmm. So the school has to adapt the courses to the design courses, cursus. So again, during our open doors, we have a department called Art, Culture and Heritage of ESMOD. Okay. Included those study pieces, almost 3,000, included a library with a lot of references and art and cultural books, and also our own publishing department with all our methodologies of cut and pattern makings, and so we redevelop all the times those methodologies to make them very contemporary, and as I said, to mix the 2D with now the 3D, and now including also all the intelligence artificial tools already, like Midjourney, different platforms like Kala and other platforms. Because I think that for the new, you have to attract the new generation, definitely. Even if you say, okay, but I would like to mention that also we have the upcycling courses. We talk a lot about circular fashion. We, of course, a lot of students say they use upcycled fabrics in our fabric room. We have the sustainable fabrics. We create also partnership with Engineer School to innovate also and to look into sustainability and recycling. So again, I think that we are not like a fashion school, like a trendy fashion school. We are an institution, in fact. And because we have 6 schools in France in different territories, like the North, the West, who have the sense of incubation also for new generation and completely linked to the ecosystem of areas out of Paris. It brings a lot of diversity. And with the 12 partners that we have, we see also how are the different cultures. You have some countries, they are less concerned about sustainability, they are more concerned about, other things like politics and economy, which is not so in a good situation than us in Europe. Okay, but everybody is like sharing the same DNA and values, which is really the foundation of ESMOD. And we bring the diversity with, this past and this future, going into this new generation who could also, who doesn't want only to talk about fashion, but want to talk about commitments, sociology, and pushing those commitments inside their different creation.
And so it's finding those angles within, if you like, within the academic content, but maintaining the sense of history and all of the sort of prestige that comes with that.
Yes.
Yeah, if you like, to the kind of wider audience.
Yes, and academic contents becomes very important, in fact, for the master, and also because we are launching also a research lab. They want to have the meaning and to have the meaning of their education again, not to be considered as you have chosen a fashion school, but they want to choose something. Let's say, very sustainable in their education as well. Yeah. So academic, when it's mixed with really professional the professional ground. We can do it because we have the fundamentals, the foundations, and we have also the professional courses. This is a way that they prefer not to have only one side of their education.
Fabienne, I mentioned that you were quite heavily involved in the world of academia. Does that chime with your experience in the world of the business schools with Glion and the other institutions that you're involved with? Do you see that sort of approach of giving this kind of very well-rounded education?
Yes, I think this academic school, let's say like Glion, like the ED, which I am in the board also in Genève, it's I think it's really important to build bridges between the industry, the brands, and the schools, because of course then when they go out of the school, they need to be hired by this, and it's all about the future of the industry, finding the right people, and it's true that these people are now shaping the future of this industry. So I would say it's no more the luxury brands who are shaping the future. It's more about the young generation that they will hire, and this is really key, especially because now there are more and more also schools and different ways of bringing stylists and people working in this luxury industry, in fashion especially. There is an amazing creativity. I was thinking when you were talking about this young designer. Well, now it's more and more known. Maybe you know him, Kevin Germanier, which is doing an amazing collection about with recycled, upcycled materials, and he's doing quite haute couture, I would say. But it's true. It's very difficult now to do, let's say, traditional haute couture. So we are inventing a new word for sure, and academic institutions and school help the industry for that.
That's why it's very important to support also those new designers, because I think that, of course, during fashion weeks you have a lot of communication around that, around this new generation. It's very, very difficult for them to build their company, in fact. So I think that we know that a lot of incubators at the moment, they have got public support, but at the end, for the perennity, it's not so easy at the moment.
Yeah. And I think sometimes the more visible, sometimes they are the best communicants, Yes. So and that's a pity. Sometimes you are just a genius, but nobody knows it.
Yeah. And Marianne, you're a designer. That must, from your perspective as a designer, that must chime with you as well.
Do you mean
about this, the need to inspire and to bring on the designers, let them have their sort of have their way, to it.
Yes, I think that with jewelry it's very different because we really work with these two materials. So I think for us it's a lot more simpler than for the fashion. Yeah.
Although the pieces themselves obviously are beautiful, so there's a lot of design thinking goes into them.
From a design perspective, of course, you could feel like, okay, I'm a bit limited because I only have gold and diamonds. And it feels like everything has been done already. Everything you do, every time you do a design and you start Googling, you will kind of
really
see something. Yeah, it's but of course, I think if you come with a different perspective, it's easier.
Yeah, sure. And I want to stay with you, Marianne, if I may, because one of the things I wanted to talk about in this particular panel was about branding and about the power of branding. And obviously in my sort of research on COURBET, it's always sort of really intrigued me. Your brand ambience is very clean, very modern. Yeah, it's beautifully simple, if I may say. And I guess, maybe perhaps that reflects, the way you've set your stall out with things like lab-grown diamonds. But I mean, has from a branding perspective, has that been a deliberate approach to cultivate that kind of ambience about the company?
I think it hasn't been the deliberate approach vis-a-vis, compared to, it's not us trying to mimic the concept of the diamonds. It's more, I think, our vision of beauty. Mm-hmm. And it's my personal preference as well. I would say I like warm minimalism. So round curves, symmetry, volumes, no unnecessary details, and I think so that kind of reflects in the products, the homepage, and everything, because it is kind of somehow the company has absorbed that kind of vision of beauty. Mm-hmm. For me, it has been. And I also think that type of warm minimalism and simply clean design is a bit, it extends to today's. I think people striving for like a more clean lifestyle. In general, you would see it also in interior design, very much. For me, it has always been my preference. I think it comes from the Scandinavian way a little bit.
Sure.
So it kind of, lucky me, it's kind of fitting with the trend.
And is that something you bring to jewelry design as well?
Yeah.
It is to try and sort of, less is more in some ways.
Yeah, I mean, it's always part of the design process is to think about what can I take away.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
Another area I wanted to talk about was the notion of resurrecting brands. There are a lot of luxury brands, and I'm thinking haute couture especially. And it's been a fairly proven way for maybe even for new companies, for new investors to establish a foothold in luxury. Because it's very difficult to create a new brand, although obviously it is entirely possible. We've got a living example here. But it comes with its own difficulties, as Marianne explained. So maybe with resurrecting a defunct brand, you get a little bit of a head start. Let's take you first, Véronique. I mean, you and as you say, you've mentioned you've worked with amazing designers, with brands. Do you think there are brands of yesteryear in haute couture that could be brought back, that could make a comeback, that could be sort of resurrected as an entity for the 21st century?
What are questions? When we refer to what happened at Chanel and Gucci, Chanel before Karl and Gucci before Tom Ford, that's true that you have a special recipe to doing that. You have to find the right creative director. And what is a right creative director? Because at the moment, when you look into fashion, or is it Pharrell Williams or is it John Galliano? Pharrell, which didn't study in a fashion school, but is more than that, like really. An incredible guy, very interested also in sustainability and creating already some fashion collection in the past. Or John Galliano with the last Margiela couture show, which was incredible, and be able to bring emotion, provocation, and this kind of thing. So first, you have to find the right creative director. Who understand the right timing, understanding the DNA, the values of this brand from the past. Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't work. So what I feel when I see the return of Paco Rabanne, and I used to work for Paco Rabanne himself in the 90s, and also COURBET, Nicolas Di Felice, and especially the last show. I think that Cardin, and we got an actuality with Cardin because they asked our students to make a capsule for the last show. I think they're looking for a creative director, or perhaps they will find a collective studio, which is also something really possible now. Cardin with the 60s, this time of nostalgia of this era, 60s freedom, could be a brand to rebuild, and with the right studio. And again, because we now it's a time for, as you say, timeless clothes or comfortable, and really a brand like Grey. Madame Grey, with a pleated jersey, with the femininity and the feminism mixed with femininity. And last but not least, because I had the opportunity to work with her in the end of the 90s, Sonia Rykiel. I think that Sonia Rykiel now, with the modernity of, let's say, the modernity of the feminism, the nostalgia of Saint-Germain-des-Prés, and because she was also very independent, intellectual, and could be with the right creative director, could be back.
So in a way, it'll be partly driven by, because I don't think anyone would dispute that we're currently, the world's currently in quite a sort of tough phase, and people are generally fairly unhappy about things. So what you were saying there about some of these brands that are associated with happier times, with freer times, with sunnier times, I mean that's something of an open door that they can push at, because in a way people are thirsting for escapism, thirsting to go, if you like, to think back to those happier times. You think that's a kind of big opportunity.
Yeah, but I forget to mention the right also managing director, the right COO. It's like, it was always like that. Remember Saint Laurent with Père Berger, and you have not only to find the right creative director now, but the right partners, as like you can see at Balenciaga between Demna and Cédric Charby. This is very important to understand, and of course, a huge communication to have the direct link with your communities, the influence marketing, and to recreate also into the physical shops, because you mentioned e-commerce. But I think that physical is still alive when you are able, with those creative directors and those managers, to recreate something else at only a store when you can shop. You see that with Dior Avenue Montaigne. You create a museum. You create different experiences for the clients. You mix restaurants, hotels very soon, and we call that now the love brands. You have to attract with other things that really only clothes or products. You have to create the experience.
Sure. Fabienne, you're nodding away. What's your take on this?
Yeah, I totally agree. I'm not a specialist like you regarding fashion, but it's true that I have heard some famous names that are not still, let's say, awake. And I think there is a lot of sleeping beauties still to awake. I'm thinking about brands like Grey, Patou, Carven. They tried with Carven, even Lanvin. Come on, they tried to do something with Lanvin, and at the end, who is talking about Lanvin now again?
So it doesn't always hit, basically. It doesn't always hit the target.
But it's an amazing. There is a lot of things to do for sure. I think in jewelry and watchmaking, it's also the same. We have probably a beautiful sleeping beauty, let's say, that we need to awake. And yes, I think it's especially in this momentum where we have a kind of nostalgia. There is a kind of revival of these vintage pieces. It's a real trend, and I think there is a lot of things to do with it.
Yeah. And of course, Marianne, I guess, coming from your perspective, this would be a threat rather than opportunity. But it's out there, I guess.
One never knows.
But you're sort of foraging your own very special niche. So I guess that makes you, to a certain extent, a little bit immune from that, because you have a very specific offer and the brand promise.
I think we're not. I mean, I have my opinion about brands that should be revamped.
Go on then.
No, I don't know.
From a consumer's point of view, we can.
No, but seriously, from my perspective, when it comes to jewelry, I think Poiret, for example. I used to see, when I was in Sweden, I knew about the brand via my family in France, and I imagine it was like a and I think it has so much potential. But I think from a COURBET perspective, it's another story.
Yeah, fair enough. Now, ladies and gents, just to let you know, very, very shortly I'll be opening the floor to questions from the audience. So be thinking about some interesting questions you can ask. We'll have sort of 10 maybe sort of 12 minutes to field some audience questions. But just before we get to that, and given that shaping our future is very much the topic of our conversation today, we can't really not talk about matters around ESG. I mean, we've talked about sustainability through things like ReLuxury and some of that. But I mean, ESG, the environment, the social, the governance perspective, it's such a big issue. Should the luxury houses be the ones that are driving positive change, or should they be more content to react to those changes as they occur? Marianne, I'll start with you, and then we'll come across all three of you for that.
I mean, a little background to that. I worked at P&G, and so I was used to big brands taking a reactive stand, and it was deliberate. And I can say that it's everywhere the same thing, is that they have too much to lose. They have stocks, they have customers, they have done their segmentation already, they have profits to protect. They have circuits, suppliers, supply chains, etc. So for them to be, the drivers of change, it's just no way. It's actually going to be the startups that are the catalysts for change. Because the startups need to enter the market with a differentiated positioning. So it actually serves their purpose. Then the larger companies are going to have the bigger impact, but they will not make a move until they see demand make a move.
Yeah. Fabienne?
Yes, so for sure they have to be they have to play a key role in this transition, for sure, and they are doing so because there are new initiatives brought by the brands, by the luxury groups. I'm thinking of one, for instance, the Watch and Jewelry Initiative 2030. It's all about watch and jewelry industry to become more responsible, and it has been built by Kering and Cartier. So they are really concerned by this, and there are a lot of more initiatives, but for sure they have to be part of the game, for sure, and they have to lead this trend.
Yeah. Véronique?
Yeah, I agree with you. There are also huge influences for the new generation, but at the same time, I think, like you said, it's very difficult for them because, again, they do so many collections a year, and don't mention all these big events and big shows in the other part of the world. So many planes with so many people going there. So again, it's very difficult for them to assume really that this. They do it. They do, of course, with another fashion school. Kering has a special research department to work about sustainability. But I think, and we didn't mention that it's very important to support. The new generation of not haute couture but luxury, or let's say premium luxury designers, like someone like Jacques Mus, promoting also something which is really local and is independent, and he tried to build a sustainable business, not only about sustainable products, but the difficulty is like to try to be sustainable, but at the same time you have to follow the rules of what is fashion with the different fashion weeks. And before 20 years ago, it was only Paris, Milan, New York, and London, and now you have fashion weeks everywhere. You have
Shanghai.
so many, you have so many possibilities of consumers, and because sometimes a lot of people talk about fast fashion. But some luxury groups or luxury brands are not luxury fast fashion because they change all the time. We don't know exactly the sourcing sometimes, so it's difficult for them to be like the reference of sustainability.
Yeah. I think it's interesting because it's true that I think what is the main challenge and the main issue regarding this competition of creation, it's to remain singular, to remain unique, to remain different. And today it's impossible. And you can see that the big brands, even each other, are copying each other. And this is impossible.
Yeah.
Because they have to be role models, and it's impossible to do so. And I think this is very shocking for me.
Yeah.
Just a point is that when we launched 6 years ago, actually we were doing our fundraising, and we received the question every time. It's like, okay, so who would you say COURBET is in the world of luxury? And we had no example. There was no example. There was nobody leading the change from the big ones. You had Stella McCartney, but it was more a focus on being vegan. I mean, so we were saying, okay, because at that time we were a bit ignorant about batteries, so we would say we'd like to be the Tesla of jewelry, because we felt they had kind of catalyzed change coming from above, inspiring with innovation. So we wanted actually to do that. So that's why we put ourselves at Place Vendôme and we went into the high end. So I really think that the role of the larger companies is to identify the tipping point when it's important for them to start moving, and to actually lead the change when it comes to the whole supply chain. Because suppliers are not going to start changing unless the larger actors start moving. And so it's not because a COURBET or a small brand comes that this whole supply chain is going to change. But the larger ones, they can actually make this happen.
Because then it becomes a business imperative for the supplier.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they're going to miss out on a client, basically.
Yeah.
And I suppose, in a way, because the luxury brands, some people are thinking caring with the man-made furs. You know, a lot of houses are also experimenting with sort of, you know, non-animal leather, manufactured leather. It's starting to move in that direction, isn't it? I mean, you guys obviously are right out there in the vanguard, but even the big houses are at least attempting to do something about this now.
An example of this was when we launched. There was absolutely no alternative for a sustainable jewelry box, unless you wanted a cardboard box, you know. But if you are luxury, you can't. All the paddings were polyester. And so we were actually doing something. We developed recycled, reconstituted leather in a kind of origami folding with water-based glue. That was kind of, it was not so, it was getting loose after some time. Today, we actually had consumed all the boxes, and we had a batch number 2, and we started to look for boxes, and there are a lot of alternatives now.
You have changed even in that time.
So today we have a more classic box that is completely like 60% biodegradable, and the rest is recycled.
Yeah.
So and that is not, I think that is because the bigger brands have started to move in silence because they can't talk about it, but they are moving.
Yeah.
Yes, they are moving also because of the startups. There is a lot of initiatives. You can find leather with mushrooms, with corn, with there are so many new materials. And for instance, even Boucheron have made this amazing collection in Cophalit. You know, this ultimate material, which is all about industrial waste. So. And they made of that a luxury product. So it's today it's all these new materials and new techniques are coming.
But talking about that, because we of course in our different schools we show this kind of materials, but it's still expensive, and at the end it's also a problem of capacities of purchasing. For some consumers at the moment, because I don't see so many figures concerning sustainable companies. In fact, you know how in fashion, because you have some trade shows with only sustainable brands showing their collections, and each time when I meet them, you know, they say there are not so many consumers at the moment if you're not a famous brand. So this is also something
the risk of getting ahead of the market, basically. They have to be aware of that.
Exactly. Yeah. That's true that department stores sometimes also they open, like Le Printemps at the moment, they open to new sustainable brands. But I'm not so easy for the moment about the success of those brands.
Okay, interesting.
But I think it will take time.
Yes.
It's all about time. You were talking about Tesla. Tesla really arrived in France, in Europe, in 2013. So it was 10 years ago. At the beginning, nobody was buying a Tesla. I bought one and I said, why? why are you why where will you where you will charge your Tesla? And I said, I had no problem with my Tesla. I have one from 11 years ago, and today is the constructor who sell the more cars in
it's the most valuable car brand in the world.
No, but it's selling more cars than so it will take time. For sure, it will take time. And COURBET will become in 10 years, 10 years the most fashionable and the biggest jeweler on the Vendôme place.
But what is very important also is to make like a desirable product and a very well-made product. Sometimes we've seen so many collections, let's say durable collection, but you know, the product was not attractive, so it can't work. I'm not sure if you ask to someone, a consumer, what do you prefer? Do you prefer to buy something like, I mean, of course we look at the tag and we don't like the kind of made in, but at the end, in fashion, you want to have the desirability and attractivity.
Yeah, sure. Okay. There's still time for questions, which I'll now throw open to our audience. The microphone man is there. So if you've got a question for our audience, please pop your hand up and we'll get a microphone to you and you can ask away. This gentleman in the front there.
Si ça vous dérange pas, je vais parler en français.
Non, ça nous arrange même.
Je sentais. En fait, ce que je trouvais très intéressant aussi dans la fin de votre débat, vous parlez en fait des alternatives comme le cuir. Malheureusement, il y a toujours une problématique sur ces nouveaux cuirs qui en fait n'ont pas le terme de cuir, qui ne sont pas recyclables. Et je pense, pour être sur un sujet moins compliqué, enfin moins, on va dire, piquant, la fourrure par exemple. Toutes les maisons maintenant, les grandes maisons, notamment Saint-Laurent, fait la fausse fourrure et c'est la fourrure synthétique. Donc, moi, je pose la question, est-ce que la solution n'est pas pire que le problème? Puisque finalement, ce qui est très intéressant chez vous, c'est que vous créez à partir de l'or recyclé. Donc, l'idée, c'est qu'il y a une matière existante. En fait, on a de la matière qui existe. Et vous retravaillez cette matière existante. Donc, le problème de la fourrure et la vraie fourrure et la fausse fourrure, c'est qu'il y a de la matière existante. Malheureusement ou heureusement, je ne suis pas dans le jugement moral. Mais donc, du coup, on a trouvé une solution qui est la fausse fourrure, qui est pire, en fait. Si on regarde réellement le résultat de la fausse fourrure, c'est du plastique. Donc, après, il y a un autre sujet qui est effectivement la communication sur partir à travers le monde pour faire des défilés et mettre... bon, bref, dans les déserts, enfin, on sait de quoi on parle. Mais justement, voilà, je trouve intéressant que vous avez cet exemple. On a une matière première existante et on la réutilise.
Okay. Do you want to just repeat a little bit about the question in English for the benefit of us rusty French speakers?
The question was a little bit about sometimes the solution is worse than the problem, or no, the solution actually brings on worse stuff.
Cool.
And I think when it comes to the fur, it was a little bit it's more of a perspective of solving the problem for vegans. It's not so much for an environmental purpose. It's more for the emotional stuff.
Yeah, but at the end, the fake fur is worst.
It is, and I think it will probably come to a point where it will probably evolve to the point where you have fake fur produced in a sustainable way, but they're not there yet.
Yeah.
I mean, fake fur is. I mean, even the name. I don't know what it's called.
Like fake leather.
Yeah.
It's not leather.
Okay.
It's why, yes, because we have already all this, let's say, of stock of already produced items, and it's why ReLuxury is coming in. And I think what is now really important is, yes, to repurpose, to refurbish, to reimagine, to reinvent, to recycle all these products and make money with them. For instance, Porsche, Porsche, the car constructor, is doing 30% of his turnover with second-hand cars. So and they sell 3 times the same car. So we can take inspiration from the car industry, for instance, doing how we can make several multiple life for our items, for our watches, for our jewelry, for our handbags, for our fashion. It's a little bit more maybe difficult, but and it's all about quality, rarity, and it's a real trend today because it prevents us to still have pleasure to buy, to find. It's a kind of quest to find the unique piece, the rare piece with an history, and you will be happy to buy it because you are sure that someone in the street will want wear the same item as you. So it's also a very virtual, let's say, and very positive economies that we have to develop.
Yeah, when you look at, I'm talking about fashion, when you look at the success of Vestiaire Collective, because it's really impressive because, and the market of second hand is increasing a lot, and the real in United States also, so, and I have to say that we're very proud because one of the founder of Vestiaire Collective is an alumni ESMOD Paris. And last time when I saw her, she told me, it's because, I studied in a school like ESMOD, really close to the craft, to the technicities, that I couldn't imagine being like one of these consumer, like always buying new products or, this kind of fast fashion. That's why I had the idea to create Vestiaire Collective, because I respect so much the product and also the artisan and also the manufacturers that I couldn't imagine being like a consumer, like consuming all the time new pieces of fashion. So,
thank you.
Maybe just a comment on what she said. Of course, Vestiaire Collective, it's an amazing adventure, but they are not earning money yet. So that's a big problem of for the let's say the re-commerce and the second life of luxury. It's all about margin. And today, it's a business model not very sustainable. The approach is very sustainable, but the business model, unfortunately, is not.
No, but the value in the market, because they are one of the unicorn in France as ever. Yeah. And you mentioned the startup. And we have to, and I think that this kind of, because they are only 10 years old. I think that we have. It's really important to support them.
Of course.
But that, as I said, it's very difficult to be profitable when you build a system.
They are calling for fundraising among their clients.
Exactly.
Yeah. You have all received the
yes, exactly.
the message.
Cool. We've got time just for one more question from the audience. Oh, hand went straight up there. You get first go at that. So fire away.
So first of all, thank you for this great conference. I have a question which is more directed to COURBET. So what do you think is the most effective way for jewelry brands using lab-grown diamonds and recycled materials to communicate about their sustainability and their initiatives to consumers? Because obviously, how you, as you said in the beginning, you don't want to make them feel bad about buying natural diamonds as well. And there's a lot of talk on the internet and on social networks. And like even people are questioning the fact that lab-grown diamonds are less damaging to the planet because of the CO2 emissions and all. So how do you, what is the best way to sort the fake from the real in their mind and communicate?
Marianne, we have about 90 seconds to answer that for our curfew.
Okay. I'm going to try to be very quick. That's a tough question to be quick on. No, I think that, the only thing you can do is be very specific, be very data-based, to refer to sources, to work with the press. Of course, you could have done we could have done a lobbying campaign, not in our own name, to kind of create awareness about the issue. Now we didn't do that, but when it comes to the issue that you're talking about it was, I think it has been part of the strategy for the representatives of the mined diamonds to create a bit of confusion when it comes to the CO2 emission via actually producing their own report sponsored by them with several kind of backward calculated numbers to show that they are 5 times more sustainable than the lab-grown diamonds. So that was quite effective, to create confusion. So now, today, we're very specific when we talk about where our diamonds are coming from, the CO2, the emission in that country. And we have done a third-party audit with Climate Seed for Scope 3 to actually audit our own emission. So we know exactly, what is causing our own CO2. And that, we communicate about that too.
Great, thank you very much indeed. Véronique, Fabienne, Marianne, I'm afraid our time is up, but I know I've thoroughly enjoyed our conversation. I hope everyone else has too. Now, ladies and gents, we're going to take another 30-minute break, and then we'll be back. Please join us for our last panel of the day, where we'll be keeping our focus on the future of the luxury industry, talking about things such as generational change, digital upheaval, and I'm sure sustainability will come back on the agenda again. And for that, I'll be joined by Marie-Pierre Morel, Antoine Ménard, and Fabrice Gautron. But for now, please join me in showing our immense appreciation to our panelists, Véronique, Fabienne, and Marianne.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Oh. Thank you very much. Thank you.